Hello and welcome to another quick revision video, and this time we're going to be looking at Elizabeth's problem with marriage and how it caused a succession crisis and rebellions and all sorts of other things. Alright, so this video is just a short video about marriage, but it's crucially important because marriage equals a lack of succession, and then that ties in with all sorts of other things like rebellions, Mary Queen of Scots, Spain, religious crisis, all sorts of things are tied into this. Lots of things in this Elizabeth depth study are interlinked, and I hope to explain some of this in this revision video today. So watch this a few times to gather a good understanding, then look at my videos, particularly the write an account and explain videos, and see if you can interlink it all in your explanation skills. Okay, so now over to the key content. Okay, so let's start looking at marriage in terms of why Elizabeth might have thought of doing it and why she didn't do it. What were the fors and against of this? So for a female ruler, this is slightly more tricky than a male ruler. Of course, a male ruler marries and they're hoping to have an heir. A female ruler might have to give up some of their power and have lots more decisions to make. So what are the arguments for? Well, firstly, she could create a strong alliance by marrying a strong foreign power, maybe Spain or France. But obviously, once she's married, she has the problem of she has to stick with that alliance, and she might be involved in wars and all sorts of things, as we'll discuss in a moment. Elizabeth, of course, could only produce an heir through marrying and could only produce a strong succession through marrying. But of course, marriage and children would, of course, prevent rebellions because she would have a strong succession. And the Mary Queen of Scots problem might not have been a problem if she had a marriage and children. So no clear succession, of course, also meant issues around civil war, Parliament in particular, worried about this. If she should die, what's going to happen? So arguments against marriage. Obviously, marrying a foreign king could lead England into falling under their control and get involved in all sorts of their problems. So, for instance, Elizabeth might have looked at Mary, her sister, who sort of lost power to Philip of Spain, who maybe dominated court, whereas Mary fell into the classic female role of not being so much in charge. Marrying an English person could be tricky for Elizabeth as well, because that might cause problems in her court. She liked Dudley quite a lot, but never married him, maybe because she was worried about the issues that might cause within the nobility of England. Also, giving birth was risky for a woman. The death rate was relatively high, so therefore it could put the country under threat, literally her having children. Whereas not marrying, of course, kept Elizabeth independent from her husband. As a female, she worried that a man would dominate and therefore she would lose power, so not marrying seemed maybe the sensible thing to do. So who were the candidates though? So firstly there was Robert Dudley, Earl of Leicester. So obviously we'll often refer to him as Leicester or Dudley. So he was good because he was a good and great friend of Elizabeth since childhood. Obviously she had great trust for him. He was a powerful noble in the court. She trusted him with all sorts of jobs, in particular war with Holland, etc. He was a Privy Council member, so therefore she didn't have to worry about trusting him with the conversations because he was already involved in the politics. And he was a very powerful Protestant. That might help the middle way and her ways in which she's trying to bring in a middle church that he could control the Protestants. The bad things were, of course, that Leicester was already married to Amy Dudley and she died mysteriously falling down the stairs. So there was a bit of a cloud hanging over Dudley, Leicester that is, and Elizabeth might not be able to get involved in that issue that is surrounding Amy Dudley's death. Also, Dudley's father, the previous Leicester, had been a traitor to Mary. Okay, Mary was a Catholic queen and perhaps as a Protestant that was his duty, but still, he'd been a traitor. Elizabeth had raised Dudley up in society from maybe a more lower noble to quite a high noble in court, and there was already some jealousy around that. And Elizabeth did reject his marriage proposal. So Kenilworth Castle case studies, those people doing a site study on that, obviously you'll know all about that. But if you want to know more, you can look at my Kenilworth Castle videos. Eric of Sweden was a popular candidate. He was a Protestant prince, obviously from Sweden. Coins are made about him. People sort of talked about him. It seemed like a popular choice. But Sweden was not a strong country. It wasn't going to be a great ally for England against France or Spain. It was going to put them into a weak Protestant bracket. It didn't represent the power of England. Now, before the AQA topic starts in 1568, there was a marriage proposal from Philip of Spain. Obviously, this was good because, again, it was a good alliance and obviously it could be access to the wealth of South America, but it was bad because technically this was Elizabeth's brother-in-law. And of course, Henry VIII had had problems with marrying in-laws, and so she didn't want to continue that idea. He was also a powerful Catholic and clearly would dominate England over the power of Elizabeth, so she didn't get involved in that one. And finally, the other one that's really important for the AQA topic, because this is in the 1570s, is Francis, Duke of Anjou. So he was a good person to marry. He was powerful. He was French, a great alliance, perfect timing. England were at war with Spain, or at least heading that way, with helping the Dutch and the problems with the Spanish invasion there. So Elizabeth was considering a marriage here. This would have probably only been a political marriage because Elizabeth was 46 and therefore unlikely to have children. Francis was a Catholic though, so there was a problem with that. And then in 1572 there was the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre, which was part of the French wars of religion. There was a war between Catholics and Protestants in France, and the Catholics had slaughtered the Protestants across the country, and that was the end of that alliance because the Catholics of France had been slaughtering Protestants. So she could not find a candidate to marry. So this caused problems, of course. Parliament got upset. So one impact you can consider about marriage is Parliament. Also, if you're thinking about Parliament questions, this is a really good idea to talk about. So in 1566, although before our topic officially starts, Elizabeth caught smallpox, but Parliament in the next couple of years were really worried about this. Yes, she survived, but they wanted her to marry. What if this happened again? They feared that if she died, there'd be a Catholic versus Protestant civil war because she had no heir, the nobility would be split, it'd be chaos. So Protestants in Parliament started to talk a lot about marriage. Elizabeth banned this talk about marriage, but Peter Wentworth broke the ban on marriage, and Parliament had him arrested and taken to the Tower to punish him, to try and stop Elizabeth being angry with Parliament. So finally then, no succession clearly meant rebellion, and by extension it sort of ruined her religious policies as well. So as Elizabeth had no children, Catholics tried to overthrow her to place Mary on the throne because she was next in line to the throne, and there was nobody to contest with that. So there was the Northern Rebellion, Rodolph plot, Throckmorton plot, Babington plot. All of these things undermined her regime, her control, as people tried to put Mary on the throne. And of course, if you look at my revision video, you'll see that this led to a decline in her middle way. She had to start being strict with Catholics because of all these rebellions. So lots of interlinking to think about. So to interrupt the video there. Hello, I'm the History Tutor, and please allow me to tell you a little bit about the service I offer to help you with your GCSE history studies. So do take a look at my website, thehistorytutor.co.uk, and find out more about things like tutoring. I can do one-to-one tutoring or small group tutoring with you and your friends to help you achieve really great results in your history studies. Also, I have many revision guides to help you. They're packed full of videos like this one with revision notes and revision talk-throughs. Also with revision cards, everything is organised into blocks that you can easily read through and write through and memorise. But most importantly, I have tutoring videos on there, 10 to 15 videos talking through how to answer the questions. You can find some of these videos for free on YouTube. Do take a look, watch through them, subscribe, that'd be great. But also you can find more in my revision guides. So do follow the links in the video information to my Amazon channel and also to my website. Okay, so now you've revised all that key information, maybe have a go at some of those writing account questions. See if you can connect up rebellions, marriage, religion, all those problems and make a nice complicated idea. Okay, well do look up for those other videos as well to revise your knowledge, but otherwise I'll see you again soon. Bye bye for now.